What?
Is it working?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Coalition Cast of Wondercast. That's what we are. Well, we will be talking about all 8 episodes of the Disney Plus series Wonder Man. A lot of arguments coming in before this even started. We didn't know what this is going to fully be about. The comic lore is very heavy. The fact that 8 episodes dropped all at once, people was like, no. But we will break down whether or not even that was a good idea. I am your host, Bromance Romance, joined by Mr. Acting 101, Danny Martinez. How are you doing, good sir? You look grumpy.
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a long day. We've been doing a lot of content.
Yay, contento. Yeah, so basically, Wonder Man, long-awaited series. Episode 1, we're introduced to Simon Williams. Simon Williams is just a basic, regular actor in Hollywood, trying to make it. We see him working on American Horror Story. I like the fact that they implemented other Disney properties.
Real things.
Because Disney owns everything. So FX, if you didn't know, is a part of Disney now. American Horror Story, he was simply supposed to play a professor. Maybe got 3 lines. He instead, he doesn't intentionally, but he does take over the whole thing, like suggestions. And it becomes a whole actors battle within. And of course, he is let go. So now he has to struggle to make it to the next job. And overall, this is a show that is less about power in terms of superhero power, but more about not just acting, but insecurity, self-rejection, rejection from the world, rejection from his family as well, that we later learn on. So what was your thoughts on episode 1 and how we meet this actor in Hollywood and Trevor Slattery, which we know from the Iron Man days, coming in and like, hey, let's help. I care about you, or at least about you wanting to be an actor.
It was a very chill first episode. I think it does a very good job of introducing his mindset on his career, where he wants to go, how serious he takes it, and the acting industry, Hollywood, or whatever, however you want to call it. So I thought it was all very good and very subtle. It was. I mean, we already know that the show wasn't really marketed that much, and especially wasn't really marketed as a superhero show. So I wasn't expecting it to be a superhero show, and I'm glad it's not a superhero show, because I think one of the biggest things that Marvel has strayed away from is focusing on the characters, not the spectacle. They've lost their way when it comes to that. It's almost like Heroes. If you ever watched the series, TV show Heroes, like, it was blown up. It was big, and that was because the first season, it was all about the characters, and then after a while it started to become about the powers, and it was just more about powers and powers and powers and spectacle, and the whole thing just went downhill. So this here, the whole entire show focuses on the characters, and I loved it from beginning to end. So that first episode was a good, steady, chill start.
I will say that. I will say that this show overall surprised me. I had emotional roller coasters where my expectations didn't meet the reality, but I appreciated what it actually ended up becoming. When you look at the comics, Simon Williams is an actor, but you have the whole Zemo aspect, his brother, and it can get very convoluted and overcomplicated. And I think that by simpling everything, where his powers or the origins of his powers in general become more of a way back over there story, that it makes this character even stronger. And that is kind of essentially what Marvel was doing, especially when it came to phase 1, making us care about the characters. Yeah, they were able to fight and they were all superheroes and we had technology, but who they are as a person made me really care first before anything else. So it's very interesting. Someone made the comment that the black men in Marvel Universe is either broke or jobless. Remember Falcon and Winter Soldier? He couldn't get
Yeah,
along.
couldn't even get alone. Riri Williams, same thing. Yeah.
And with him, he's unemployed.
I guess you can.
Struggling.
Would you say the same with Luke Cage? I can't remember Luke Cage's financial
I don't remember.
situation.
I would love to rewatch Luke Cage. I don't think he was ever broke. I think he was rich in Community. I think he was just normal. He was just living a very normal life.
Middle class.
Middle class, regular class. Back when the middle class was the actual middle class.
Yeah.
I think he would be struggling today. But I completely agree with that. I do like the fact that we meet the people kind of around him as well. I love the manager who, was trying to manhandle him and discovered that there was the Wonder Man TV show, that not Wonder Man movie that is now being rebooted. And his whole thing that we discover is Wonder Man, the movie was something he would go to watch in the theater. It was a bond between him and his father. And he truly loved it. And that was the moment when he wanted to become an actor. So this isn't just a job for a job's sake. This is something that has deep roots and meaning for him. And so when he finds out that there's a Wonder Man reboot movie happening, he does everything in his power to make sure he at least can get an audition with that. How do you feel about, obviously we don't know so much about the strong connection that Wonder Man has with Wonder Man, but that need of, I'm not sure you ever did acting or theater in New York, but that need to have a part because it's something way bigger than him. I love that aspect of it.
You can sometimes just get when you're looking at casting calls and you just see a role that just jumps out at you, like you instantly know what to do with this character. By the way, I try to do a bit of voice acting, trying to get out there and do voice acting. So in a sense that I do acting, but not like out there on camera and stuff. So I kind of can sympathize with a lot that goes on in this show, in a sense. But you can run into a casting call, a character, and you just be like, oh, I have to get this role. I have to get this character because I could already see my choice. It just came naturally. I know what I have to do. Like, this one speaks to me, and you have to go for it however you can.
Right, I completely agree. And for me, it's slightly different. I have been studying acting since I was a child and went to school, performing arts school for it. I did college courses on psychology of acting. I was actually in stuff. I remember being on that bathroom floor, crying hysterically. Remember Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark? That was a musical about Spider-Man. I auditioned several times for that. And it is a gut-wrenching, anytime that you audition, it is a very gut-wrenching experience, at least for me, where it is that rejection after rejection, and then you get the callbacks, your hopes are like, woo! And then it's like, well, let's see. Then you wonder if you did it right, if you could have did something better. I remember hysterically crying on the bathroom floor. Me not getting that part, later on, actually saved me. People's backs were broken. Remember that production? It broke people's backs.
Yeah.
Literally.
They had to shut down the show, maybe 2 or 3 times because they lost their Spider-Man.
Times.
Not dead, but they
Spider-Man's.
Yeah.
It was very bad. Sometimes things are meant for you and then they're not meant for you. And then when they are meant for you, there are some consequences sometimes. So and I was in Step Up, the water one, the 3D one. So, I really understood this entire thing, very much so. And so we meet Trevor. Trevor is an actor. We all know Trevor from Iron Man 2, where he played the terrorist who was the Mandarin, but not really the Mandarin. He is still acting, I guess, after the adventures of Shang-Chi. He just went back to LA and started acting again. We see him. He wants to be very, he wants to be, very helpful to Simon and give him some advice. And this is how they kind of form a friendship in the bathroom when he teaches him, how to be prepared. And one of the big things about Simon is he overthinks. And that can be one of the biggest part of acting is you overthink a part too much. You get too deep in the role. And even when you see me interview people, sometimes when it's like, oh, this is just a Medea movie. Why are you asking about the psychology of a character? It's me overthinking. Anytime I get too ridiculously serious, I'm just overthinking. So I related completely to Simon. I was like, this is amazing. So we think it's going to be a nice little friendship. Turns out that there may be something that Trevor is hiding. That this may be planned event. What are your thoughts on not just seeing Trevor, yay, but he's nefarious, possibly?
It was disappointing for him as a character. I thought like he was starting to redeem himself when you saw him in Shang-Chi. He was trying to stay away from the Mandarin and all that negativity and trying to stay away, obviously, from being incarcerated again. So I was disappointed, but also understandably, like they're blackmailing him, the Department of Damage Control. So like he kind of doesn't have a choice. He's either going back to jail or he's got to do what he's got to do. So. But we all know what happens in the end, and he gets redeemed. So I think he's a cool new favorite that I would hope a lot of people now have fallen in love with as a character.
I do love his arc as a character because we do see someone who uses his acting skills to manipulate and get into the heart and soul and mind of Simon, and you really do. And it comes off very well. It feels like a very genuine, authentic friendship that naturally blossoms from like, here's some advice to genuinely caring about each other. I think one of the biggest moments for me was when Simon had the covering over his wall because the wall was damaged by his powers, which we'll get into. And he didn't, obviously we know it was why he didn't, run away. But in that moment, it felt very genuine when he just ignored it. And I was like, hey, you want to go get some, I don't know what it is, some pizza or whatever it was at the time. So I do like that arc. And I think that him being blackmailed really showed that he was trying to be a very genuine person. And it just so happened that he had a terrible past that people are taking advantage of in order to use it for their bigger gain. So for me, that was a really exceptional moment when it came to him. So kind of, is there anything else that you wanted to say about episode 1? We don't fully know what the Department of Damage Control is, but it did make me curious. I expected the TVA, but it was not the TVA because I'm like, oh, he didn't do any incursions that we know of. So it wouldn't necessarily be the TVA, but the Department of Damage Control kind of felt like, remember how they did in the previous Spider-Man, the one with, oh God, the dad that was played by, his face is on my face. Remember when Peter Parker met the dad? I think it was not the first one, but maybe the second one? It was before No Way Home. It could have been the first one. I think it's the first one.
Wait, which dad are we talking about? Oh, Vulture.
Okay, remember when Vulture?
That was the first one.
Okay, so I'm losing my train of thought. ADHD. So remember when Vulture was working for a department of garbage disposal of technology, which is how he was able to acquire all of the technology that was left over.
Was Damage Control.
That was the department?
Yeah, because Tony Stark created that department financially. And Damage Control, all they used to be was a cleanup crew. All they were was to rebuild and clean up all the messes that superheroes and supervillains leave behind. And it eventually evolved into what we see now.
And so we know that he is a high-level threat. We don't know why. We don't know where. We don't know what the plan is. Was you at least intrigued when it came to what I at least assumed was going to be the major plot of the show?
Yeah. I was very curious of how did they know he has powers? What do they think his powers are? Why he thinks he's so damn dangerous? on that first episode anyways. Things we learn more obviously as we go along. So definitely curious about why they feel the need to have to capture this guy.
Right. I completely agree with that. You know, the black man is angry and powerful. So we got
Angry black man.
Angry black man. Episode 2, self-tape. This is when we learn the kind of the full backstory of Trevor being not controlled is the proper word, but used by the Department of Damage Control to monitor Simon's activities and to find out more about him and more of his powers and what he's like. We do know that he is a threat because he's black. Joking, but he is a threat and his powers are a threat. Did you like the fact that he was being not manipulated but used? Do you feel like that was a good, you know, plot device? Because I did.
No, I liked it.
Like he thought he was free.
I think it's a cliche thing to do, but there's only so much you could do with these type of stories. So as long as it's just done well with the right actor and the right characters and stuff, sure. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It is definitely when I had heard why they were, you know, the very little promoting that they were doing for this show, when I had heard that Trevor and Simon were together, they were kind of like buddies on the show itself, I was very curious. I was like, why would Trevor have any interest in him or Simon for that matter with Trevor? It was like, you know, they're very different personalities. So this was, you know, the excuse. This was the reason. So yeah, I liked it. It was a good reason.
See, I thought that was like, hey, we're two actors who happen to be in Hollywood. And we did. Well, he did talk about wanting to go back.
I could obviously, yes, they're in the same industry, but they're two very different actors, though. And I really enjoyed their dynamic when it came to acting advice too, because on this episode specifically, it stood out to me because you get to see more of Simon. He really has this bad habit of overanalyzing his characters, and me when I was with my voice acting training. That was the issue that I would have, is that you're overthinking things, is that you're just overanalyzing, too many notes, too many details. So Trevor is just like, you got to just feel it. You need to just let it go. Stop thinking so much. You have to just live in that moment right then and there. And in my head, I was just like, that's exactly what my teachers taught me. That was the exact same things. I was like, wow, so that is a real thing. And I was just like, yep, you're right. And I was just like, oh, I wonder how what Simon's gonna do, what he's gonna choose, what direction he's gonna go to for his character, whatever it might be. So I was just like, I was really into the whole dynamic of them both feeding off each other's experiences.
I really love the fact that he was open to Trevor's advice. Yes. Because you can be actors can be very stuck in their ways and very arrogant. But the fact that he was open, I feel that this is me overanalyzing. This was a moment when Trevor was finally being seen, not just as an actor, but as Simon was finally being seen, not just as an actor, but as a person as well. And that is why he opened up so much to him. Because you remember at the very end, it was like, hey, you want to hang out? It's so easy for Simon to be closed off and be like, nah, I'm good. And that would make so much sense, you know, because he is a closed off person. As you would get into the girlfriend aspect, just as you never let me in. And the fact that he was willing to let Trevor in, I don't know if it was because he was a man or because he was a fellow actor, but that, you know, was such a very positive move on the writer's part as well. And it felt very authentic because to me, he was always crying out for someone to kind of pay attention to him. And we later learn why within the family dynamics, he doesn't really have anyone in the family to see him through. And he's so closed off with the girlfriend. So what is also interesting is when they bring about him watching the self-tape. This is when we get a sense of his power, where the explosion happens. And it's like, oh, so it's an emotional field. This is what I'm like, is he a mutant? Is it the X-Men?
And that's the thing that I'm very interested in what they're going to lean towards, because he's not in the comics, but I could 100% see that for the show. And I think it would 100% make sense. And I think it'll fit the criteria of mutants need to hide who they are for many, many reasons, the prejudices out there in the world now. So him being a mutant makes a lot more sense because he has to hide it because of the position he's in or the industry he's in.
Because he's a black man and they view black people as being angry. So to show those powers, you laugh. It kind of reminded me of, there was a movie that Jonathan Majors did that was supposed to be his big breakout before everything went completely imploded, called Magazine Dreams. He plays a bodybuilder who's addicted to steroids, which causes road rage. But when you meet him and he's not road raging, and he doesn't until the very, very end, he's quiet. He's afraid to take up space. His body is like this. He speaks very lowly because all they view is a big black man with all these muscles. And we all know the stereotypes that they play upon that, which I'm kind of wondering, is that how Yahya kind of played it in a way? Because he played it very small. We've seen Yahya act. Remember, he was in that wonderful HBO show, Watchmen.
Oh, yeah.
He was also in Aquaman. He plays very loud, present characters. Man, the man was basically Jesus at the end of Watchmen. That was another show, so I don't think it would be made today. Maybe it would be, but that was, he's a fantastic actor playing these boisterous characters, and in a way, he was very quiet. And when they did show that explosion, it was something that felt like it had to come out of him because he was kind of hiding who he really was, and also he is not allowed to be, I don't feel, emotional and loud as a whole. In his, just in everyday life. So, Dana, overanalyzing, I know, but that's what I kind of got from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Like, no, because the thing is, I can't speak for that. Like, maybe you're seeing something that I don't, being a black person, and
black.
That black. You didn't know this? I have so much to tell you. So like you understand those type of struggles and those prejudices and those issues in the culture and all that stuff, but what I saw was that he was that way because of his powers, not necessarily because he's black. Could have been an analogy or a metaphor, however you want to say it, but what I saw was that he was timid and quiet and reserved because he knew getting emotional would release that energy, and he was trying to hide that. That's all I saw, but I guess you saw further than that.
No, I completely agree with you in this thing. Again, I'm Simon. Overthink. I completely agree with you. This, at the end of the day, his powers were something. And remember, they're outlawed in the field that he's working in. And in general, I don't think people are going to be very accepting of a random guy. Forget race. With the power of exploding things and destroying whole buildings that we've seen. He does not have control of that.
I should mention, because of his powers, his powers are ridiculous in the comics. He can literally go toe-to-toe with the Sentry or the Hulk, no problem.
Oh, but Sentry kind of makes you depressed. I really wish they would have explained Sentry's powers more. Because it just makes everyone depressed, and you're in this room fighting your demons.
Well, that's the Void. That's not even the Sentry. The Void is like a whole other entity within the Sentry.
You see, I love that movie, but I wish they would have explained more of the separation between the. They did. I'm just slow. Because they did show Sentry as Sentry. Remember when he just decimated the Thunderbolts, and that was like lightweight work for him. And then they did show Void being like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then him not remembering either one, which is hilarious. He did meth. We got meth back then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I forgot what it would be very interesting if they did that, but I don't think they explained his powers really well. Aside from, we know that at that time he couldn't fly. He couldn't run quickly. He's like, it's a super speed. He's like, no. So yes, I completely agree with you at that part. We do know that they being the DODC, need access to his computer so that they can find out more information about him, and all they get is self tapes, which is such a Hollywood thing. Because if you was to take my computer, all you would find is just interviews, just files and files of interviews. So for him, it's just self tape upon self tape.
Honestly, that little technique that he does there, I need to adopt myself. Is recording responses and then I respond back as the character in order for me to practice more. I never thought of that for some reason. I was just like, yeah, I need to do that.
You know what I used to do? How I learned how to memorize everything and to get into character. Back in my day, we had tape recordings. Like you could just record. You could do this on your phone. You could record on your phone. So you would just record the not just so for the dialogue. What I would do is record me saying the dialogue and just listen to it all day. And even when you're going to sleep, so you memorize everything. Mm-hmm. And that way, when you do like, there's a response, like, you know, and Sally says, close the door. And then I just remember automatically to respond, no, you ho, close it yourself. So that is really great techniques. I have a bunch of techniques. We have to do monologues and terrible. Anyway, so this is what we talked about. Trevor doesn't judge Simon because obviously for other reasons, but I think he truly doesn't judge him in general at all. Because he's been around so many stuff that I don't think someone like Trevor would scare him. And he knows that he knows that Simon doesn't mean any harm. So they do the self-tape situation. I kind of like that. They travel around and you see more of Hollywood that way. Also, we're bringing back Joey Pants. That was one of my favorite episodes. Next to when we get to the doorman. But Joey Pants, yay for being alive. That was hilarious. And we learn more about Trevor in this whole situation and the kind of the upsetness that Joey had about Trevor and their relationship. So see, he's deeply embedded in actual Hollywood. He's a real actor. He's not like a surface actor. It's like, yeah, I did a role 1 or 2. He's, Joey Pants. And Simon stood up for Trevor.
Yeah, that was a good moment. Yeah.
That was such a great moment. And I loved how they just incorporated real Hollywood. This was a show within
the pretentiousness of real Hollywood.
Yes. And he tried to Joey Pants is so successful, but he tried to make Trevor feel like dog poop. And that happens multiple times. So yeah, I did love that part. And it also just forms that friendship, that bond that Trevor and Simon does have. Yes. And we got a self-tape eventually. And they went back to the apartment and we got a self-tape, which was also very nice to see. Was there any other thing that you wanted to mention about episode 2?
Only that when they finally did get the self-tape, I love again looking at how messy and chaotic Simon's process is, only to throw it all away once Trevor gives him advice. And when you see him finally get to that moment with his character, for example, during his actual recording, you can see such a difference. It always fascinated me of watching an actor play as an actor acting, because the actor has to play 2 or 3 different characters in that one moment. So it's very interesting that Yahya is playing Simon, and then Simon has to play Wonder Man, and you can see the transition between the two. And I'm sorry, I geek out over that stuff. It's amazing to see that transition.
Completely agree. And if I had a whole 30 minutes to speak to Yahya, it would be like, how do you break down being an actor while also being an actor? And then what tools do you use for you as the actor, but you can't use when it comes to Simon because he doesn't have the same tools as you?
Yes.
See, this is me overanalyzing. It comes in. It helps. It works. But yeah, this was such a fascinating a character study on acting and Hollywood and everything else. So we're going to episode 3 then, since that is everything that happened in episode 2. Because remember, they're only 30 minutes each. We get Simon as a child. This is when we kind of learn the importance of Wonder Man to him. Simon as a child, and also there is an accident that happened when he was 7-ish.
Yes.
Is that what you say? Where the house burned down, but he was perfectly fine. No smoke inhalation, no burns. It just, a lot of like, I'm fine, and everybody being confused around him. Everyone's happy that he is alive, but no, he almost accidentally burned the whole house down in the kitchen. We don't see the kitchen situation ship. Was that okay with you? Because it was frustrating, but I get it. It wasn't about the incident, really.
What do you mean? What was frustrating?
We don't get to see the actual incident that happened with Simon in the kitchen. We are going to assume, or we alluded to, that is when he probably first started out with his powers, which I'm going to assume he was born with, and it just emerged when he was, through puberty, like we see X-Men. So the fact that we didn't see the origin of the assumed powers, or even the house incident with the kitchen, did that frustrate you, or did you not want to see that?
No, because again, this show tries to purposely avoid those superhero tropes, and one of those superhero tropes is, superhero origin. So, and we've said this a million times before in other reviews that we've done, is America has a habit of needing everything to be given to them on a silver platter when it comes to like the story, motivations, things like that. Like nobody can just use their mind, their theater of their mind, or their context clues, or whatever it might be, to put together things on their own. So I think the moment when they're just like, oh, this happened and he's okay, there was a quick 3-minute scene. I thought it was perfectly fine, because it gets to the point, it explains a moment in his life, and then they move on to the character. The character is what's important. I didn't need to see a superhero origin story again for whatever reason. So I appreciate that it happened quickly.
I agree with that assessment, even though it initially frustrated me. Well, just currently, when I was watching it, because that is not the story that this is being told.
Right.
His powers really don't serve a purpose until the very end. And even that is only used as a conduit to get his friend back. So I did love that they didn't focus. I love the fact that it left mystery. We don't need the answers to everything. And as you stated, we don't need to be hand-walked. And there were several articles about how people's attention spans have lessened, especially with today's generation, where TV shows and movies have to repeat.
Thank you, TikTok.
Thank you, TikTok. But they have to repeat a lot of the information the same way over and over again. That's when Matt Damon and Ben Affleck gave the interview when they did The Rip. They have to keep repeating things. I was watching The Residence, which was amazing. The Resident, not The Residence. The Resident on Netflix. It was a Shonda Rhimes show where they kept repeating information that literally happened 5 minutes ago, and it became very frustrating. So I appreciate we are avoiding that. And in a way, it kind of reminded me, the writing of old school MCU. Not to say that I don't think MCU has done that when it came to repeating everything and force feeding us information. I don't believe that they've really done that at all. They showed us what we needed to see at that moment, but that was it. So I appreciate that. And it felt, overall like old school MCU. We learned some of nefarious things that, again, we do not get an answer to. And the Department of Damage Control is building a supermax prison for all of their high-powered individuals who are doing more harm than good to the world. We don't exactly know how Simon falls into that, because he's not like, I'm a former killer who has now seen the error of my ways. This is someone who is always stay quiet.
I think this is more of the capitalism aspect of things. It's just that, even here in real life, prisons are a financial a benefit. Like it's all about just finances. It's all about making money. The more prisoners you have, the more funding you get from the state or the government or whoever, and the more money you have in your pocket. So I mean, I think that's the same case. It's just that I don't think they care who they put in that prison as long as it's super powered. So that way they have more money. And obviously some people don't lose their jobs because they might shut the place down.
So what you're saying is they want to arrest an innocent black man.
Exactly.
No, we didn't take a break. Not even in a non-superhero movie. If you didn't get a loan, now we're being arrested. Put in jail. Yes. So this is very interesting. I love this. I kind of love all of these episodes. But Simon's mama has a birthday. And this is when, you know, Trevor invites himself. Obviously, we know it's for nefarious reasons because of the Department of Defense or whatever you want to call it. But I think this is he kind of genuinely cares to learn more about Simon. And the fact that, again, the fact that Simon said yes, I don't feel that was something that was, you know, forced for the plot. He's warming up and opening up to Simon. He's noticing a change in his life with him. And so this is when we end up meeting the mama and his brother, which was so raggedy sweet in both the comics. The mama's sweet. The brother was not sweet. And he's not sweet in the comics either.
No, he's a villain. Doesn't he play a villain?
He's a villain.
Yeah.
He plays a villain. They completely changed the origin story and made it very grounded, human approach, but they kept that little nasty attitude. I loved it. So, and they kind of incorporated, I think they incorporated you didn't join the family business, which was one of the, what did you say? When you're upset at somebody, kind of the main argument in the comics was, remember, he didn't join the father's law firm. It was no, did he? Did Simon get the position in the firm? And then the brother was upset that he did, and not him.
Yeah, well, he was an actor.
Was Simon the favorite? Too. Yeah, but was Simon the favorite in the comic?
I can't remember.
I cannot remember which kid was the favorite. But the point is, there was tension between the two. And with this show, it really showed. I'm not going to say it alluded to, you know, Simon being not babied, but supported more than Eric. He was supported as being an actor. You know, we had that experience between him and his father, who passed away, seeing Wonder Man together and that bond that they had, because at that time Simon was being bullied and his father was like, just go see a movie instead.
Yeah.
And this is when they saw Wonder Man, and it was a really beautiful experience for him. But from my understanding, Eric really didn't have that. It was more of the responsible one. He was the one that was, you know, supporting everyone and giving money to his mother, which, by the way, we discovered everybody's Haitian.
You discovered
so
what?
I did. They're Haitian.
Oh, they're Haitian.
Remember, they're immigrants.
Yeah. Yes.
They're immigrants. We got another immigrant star. This is so great. Anyway, so yes. So the son, Eric, was taking care of the mother financially, and then the mother would give the money to Simon because acting does not pay the bills. I think we all learned that during the actor strike when they had residuals. My residual was for 1 cent. I still have that in this house.
How do you even cash that?
It was for Step Up. Thank you, Disney. As we review a Disney show, thank you for my penny. But yeah, it was, and back then the cost of a stamp, I don't know what it is today, but it was literally pennies. But they gave me less than that. They gave me 1 penny. So what did you feel about the dynamic between the family? I thought it was terribly uncomfortable, very realistic, and heartbreaking. You get to see more of the rejection from Simon and his parent, his brother.
So it was very uncomfortable, very awkward. I think it was meant to do that, especially because Trevor is from a whole different country and a whole different color. So it's expected to be awkward. I remember I had dated a girl from Trinidad, and I went to her mom and her stepfather. They're gonna have an actual wedding ceremony. And this was my first time meeting the rest of her family. So I got to see the culture. I got to hear the music. I got to get their food and all that stuff. And it was very awkward and very uncomfortable because of like, I stood out. I was, the only Latino there. Actually, no, lies, not the only Latino because her stepfather was Puerto Rican also. But it was still just awkward because I had never been in that type of culture before. So it was just very, very weird. So I can completely put myself in the shoes of Trevor, trying to get used to all that stuff going on. Now, on top of that, Trevor is trying to get information out of everybody, and they're not giving him what he wants. So you can see how frustrated he's getting throughout the whole, incrementally throughout the party and stuff. So that was fun to watch of him getting an attitude. But I think the two things that stood out was the brother and how much of a jerk he is, and then also how sweet the mom is, and like just no matter what, like she still supports him regardless, even after he blows his top and breaks the counter table. She still acts like nothing happened and talks to him like nothing's changed.
How many families have we seen where something happened, there's an incident, and we just don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. We move on. That to me was so realistic. And you bringing up that you went to the birthday party of the girlfriend and you were seeing how they interacted in their culture. I was petted at an event. My hair was literally petted. It's actually not, I have actual hair. No, yeah. It was like, oh my God. My hair was long. I'm just a bum and lazy. And like feeling hair texture and like, oh, I didn't know Black people's hair can get that way. They were Cambodian.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, that was a what was it? A Thailand experience for sure. But yeah, so I did like the fact that, it was very realistic and there are incidents that we just don't talk about. They brought up, hey, I like the fact that you remodeled the kitchen because we know the fire. And Trevor is trying to get as much information from the entire family about the kitchen, which is like, why are you asking these questions? We know why, but it's very uncomfortable. But he's trying to get as much as he can. I think he was wearing a wire at the time.
Yeah, he was.
A mess.
Also, by the way, I should mention what made me uncomfortable about the party that I was in that I kind of saw a little bit with in the party with that Trevor was in is the code switching, because it was code switching from American English to Haitian in his case. But like for me, it was like it was the first time I had heard my girlfriend with a Caribbean accent, and I was like, where did this come from? Why don't you sound like that all the time? And she's like, oh yeah, I can just turn it on and off whenever I want to. I was like, I have never heard of this before.
I did that with my roommate in college because I can switch very quickly to Caribbean. I can switch, and it scared the living, she's white. It scared the daylights out of her because she was like, I don't understand what you're saying. And I'm like, it's because it's my uncle. From the island, we just talk like this regular, but I did love that. That is such an amazing moment when it shows the people who a majority who immigrate here, that ability, and those who don't even immigrate, Black people do it all the time. When we're comfortable and we speak a certain way. We've seen it with Hispanic. There's a great interview that Benicio del Toro did where he's like full Mexican. And then like the proper way of like, ¿cómo está? Yes. And then it's like, so there's code switching within every culture. And I loved how they brought that out here.
Yeah.
So I will say that. And I do feel that for me, it felt like a moment when Trevor started to genuinely not feel sorry, but care about him. Like forget the whole Department of Defense. Because he's seeing how, he's being treated. He's seeing his powers. He's seeing him being, quieting down and the family not saying anything. So I think that this was a moment where, he saw him as someone of like, not sadness, but everything wasn't going right. He wasn't like this big monster.
You just saw the real him. Yeah, exactly.
He's not the real him. He wasn't this big monster that was assumed that he was when it came to Department of Defense. We have to lock him up. Powers. And you're like, well, where? He's a gentle giant in that way. So I did appreciate that when it came from the series, and I did love the mother. She had a really great performance, as did the brother. I didn't like how certain things ended when we get to these.
But that's a good job.
That's a good job. Like, I genuinely hated him, and he was like, "Oh, you don't provide for nothing," and I'm like, "Oh." But in a way, you can understand his frustration, because when there's two of you and the load is not shared, you can understand why he would be frustrated. But at the same time, are you frustrated because he is able to live his dream, even though his dream is failing? But he is able to have that freedom. So, and then I'm going to assume that Simon carries guilt too about not being the son or the brother that his brother wants him to be, but also wanting to pursue his dreams. Because I think he would probably die in that environment of working a regular job and not being an actor and seeing other people succeed. And again, Wonder Man is still in the back.
Yeah, it hurts to think what if all the time. So even if you tried and failed, at least you tried, and you kind of just like, all right, well, that didn't work out. I guess I need to go and try something else. Or you just fall deeper into a hole and you just never get out of it, trying to fulfill your dreams that'll never happen. Like, that happens too. And I think that's where his brother didn't want him to end up. And like, because we all know that like failed actors, sometimes they try and try and try until they freaking die. And we all know, like in LA, for example, people are always using drugs, people are always getting drunk, people are acting stupid. So sometimes you fall into that hole and then you end up dying also before you get big as well. So I guess his brother didn't want that life for him to be a failed actor. But I don't know. Yeah, it just sucks either way.
But this is a family that doesn't communicate. So I think if he actually said that to him, everything would have been, handled better than what it was now. But in the same way, when he tells him about auditioning for Wonder Man, he's like, I don't care. He was shortlisted. He made the cut. There's several audition rounds, so he at least made the first cut. It was but it's not a job.
Oh, it's just a second interview. That's all it is.
I'm like, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong at all. So one of the things that stood out to me was when the mama says to Trevor, he was a lonely boy who became a lonely man. And that made me so sad.
Yeah.
I thought it was, and that was the moment when Trevor was like, and then I was like on the floor. It can happen, as you talked about too. Hollywood is a very me world. It is very isolating. There were little pockets where you can make friends, but remember, everything's kind of considered rivalry. Yes. In a way. We're all auditioning for the same role, and not everyone's going to be like, hey, I hope you get it. Secretly, you're like, I hope you got dead.
And it's even harder now because everything is digital. You can send in your auditions and stuff all through video and an email.
Which is why I like they include self-tape has always existed. But now it's just so rampant that you don't see the people. Maybe until like the final audition, the chemistry read. And this is how a lot of times we get miscast. And I really wished they would have touched on this. The acting environment has changed so much that they no longer look for actors. They look for subscriber numbers.
Yes. It's all about your subscribers. Yeah.
And it's not just acting. It's in everything now. Anyone who wants to be in entertainment. Even if you were like, I heard multiple times it was like, I would like to interview this actor. Okay, but what's your numbers? What's your monthly viewer, whatever they call it? Even when you apply to, like, say, Comic-Con. Okay, what's your data? It's like, what does that have to do with my questions?
Yeah.
I have one follower, but I can answer some good questions. So it's really hard to get ahead in that aspect. And then you see people who have such a high following count and they suck at their job, or they'll cry at a trailer that they've already seen. So I thought that this was very interesting in that aspect. Trevor is starting to warm up to him. And I like the fact that we got an ice cream maker. I would love an ice cream maker. You can make it yourself.
Yeah.
She was very excited about that ice cream maker. And then, of course, we got the big explosion, obviously, in the house that happened, which made me sad because they just redid the kitchen.
Yeah, they got to spend that money all over again. I would have been mad over that, honestly.
I was so mad. As the brother paying for everything, I would have thrown.
Yeah, that kitchen stuff is not cheap.
No, it is not. And inflation is horrible. So this is hands down episode 4, my favorite episode in the history of all episodes to ever exist. This was the moment of, I can't get a loan. The black man couldn't get a loan because, they're under contract. This is when we learn like the Avengers aren't fully employed. It's just contract jobs. So we're not going to give you a loan. And the fact that you were gone for 5 years, no loan. The doorman episode. This didn't involve Simon. It didn't involve any of the cast. This was a standalone episode that to me reminded me of the Boondocks, Chappelle Show, Atlanta. And it was not about the story itself of Trevor and Simon, but about Hollywood, about how they will use someone and spit them out, and then overuse them. And when it's done and over with, they discard you, throw away. They don't really care about you. They care about, as you were saying, the monopoly of the business of acting. So in episode 4, we meet a man named Demar Davis. He is a bar doorman. He's throwing out garbage at his regular shift. The bar's closing. Got to get into the trash. He comes out. They don't say what it is. I was like, is that venom? But it's a gooey substance. I was like, oh.
It is dark matter, and I don't know if you looked into it at all, but the dumpster said Roxxon, which is a big deal because that is a corporation involving with Cloak and Dagger. If anybody's seen that show before or aware of those characters. I can't hear you.
I said I was about to cry. It was one of the best shows ever. Yeah. And I will forever hate Loeb. I forgot what his first name is. Remember, he was the head of Marvel Television at the time for canceling that. Cancel the Runaways, but you canceled my Cloak and my Dagger, which is, oh my God.
Yeah.
Bring them back. I would be so happy. This is when we're going to overanalyze and be like, we're getting Cloak and Dagger back.
I would
bring
hope
them
so.
back.
Bring them back.
That was such a wonderful. See, now I'm going to go and watch Cloak and Dagger. Just to like that and Luke Cage. I'm doing a rewatch. But yes, he came into the Cloak and Dagger goo where I was like, Venom. And, apparently all of a sudden he's working in a bar one night. There is a tragedy. There's a fire that breaks out and the door is locked. And this, we have seen multiple cases where there have been fires in bars. The door has been locked and people perish and died. But this is like a happy story because he has the ability for people to pass through him. Mm-hmm. And this is how he is able to save people's lives. This was before, I think the exhaustion, because I thought the doorman clause was about the exhaustion of superheroes.
Yes, I thought so too.
Obviously, that's not what it means at all. But I was like, we're tired of superheroes. We all know what happened with the events. And I think after 5 years of people disappearing, I would be really exhausted too. Mm-hmm. It came before, gave me a Jurassic World Rebirth vibes, even though that sucked. I was like, we're tired of these dinosaurs. But with this, people are able to pass through him, and that is how he saved the day. He ends up becoming a star behind this. And Hollywood is like, oh, I like him, but that includes Josh Gad. Olaf is fascinated by him. He wants him to be his bodyguard. And during that time, he helps the actor escape paparazzis and fans, and he's just really a useful tool because again, people are just being used as tools. And it's interesting that he's black. I know you're gonna say I didn't see it that way because I'm Hispanical. But for me, I was like, it's very interesting that he's black. What were your thoughts before everything goes to kaput about the power itself and the inclusion of Josh Gad?
I thought that he was like just a gag, like, or cameo gag thing when he first showed up, but he actually has a bit of importance to everything. So I found that funny, and I know we'll get deeper into the whole Hollywood using him and all that kind of stuff, but like what I appreciate was establishing his character as a guy who was very content with what he had. He was happy with his job. He was good at what he was getting paid to do. He was having a good time because he was talking with people, socializing, still getting good money. He had a cool boss. Like everything was just perfect for him. And then Josh Gad came in the picture. But yeah, and the powers are cool. The powers are really cool. There's more to it than what they showed. And I hope they touch on that maybe one day. Maybe like, he's still alive out and about somewhere, and maybe he's figuring out his powers a little bit more, and eventually Josh Gad will return in Avengers Doomsday. So they didn't portray his powers too much. It was just like, it was almost like he only knew one aspect of it, and he just went with that because that's what worked. And I just find that funny because he didn't make an effort to do more for it.
You know what I'm thinking of? You know
What?
They love to have fight scenes and like just random places when it comes to these MCU movies where like the aliens would just drop down from Earth. So just imagine a Doctor Doom fight scene, and in the background we see Damar just walking down the street, and then suddenly Josh Gad pops out of his stomach. As Doom is fighting everybody, just in the distance, he just pops out. It's like, where am I? In summer. That would just be. I would love that so much.
He should make a cameo.
That happen.
He should make a cameo.
He should make a cameo.
Because I'm hearing Wonder Man's going to be in Doomsday.
I don't want him to.
I'm sorry, not Doomsday. Secret Wars. Sorry, that's what I meant. I meant Secret Wars.
I don't want him to be in Secret Wars. I don't want him to be in anybody's war. I don't want him to be in BattleBots. I don't want him in nothing.
Okay, you know what? I agree with you because I know why you don't want him to be, because you want it to be focused, a character focused type of stuff with him. But I honestly think it would do him good to do it, so he has more brand recognition for the public. So people are more aware of Wonder Man, his powers, what he can do, and show more interest so we can get a season 2 or a season 3 or a season 4. I think he should be in the movie.
I understand that reason why. I do understand it, but I feel that this is such a beautiful, cohesive story.
Yeah.
That because it didn't focus on his powers, we don't need to now see him because he would have to use his powers. Just period. He's not going to be up there and be like, hey, I'm going to take this role. It's not going to work. So I don't want that. I'm fine with Sentry and Void because that, even though that wasn't necessarily a superhero movie-ish, you can make the argument. But it was in a way. So no, I'm sorry, but I get it. I would love to have more exposure on Simon Williams, but at the same time, I don't want him to be like the Doorman, where he is just overexposed. That's my fear. So going back to the Doorman, he ends up joining the heist movie that Josh Gad wants him to be an actor, and this is when we end up becoming this huge stick of Ding Dong. The Doorman. So ding dong, and this is something that is repeated. He makes a lot of appearances, and that is just his line, ding dong. It's kind of like the what do you call it? Did I do that?
Yes, actually, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like this reminds me of the did I do that thing, but it's actually a trope that was made fun of in The Simpsons. And that's another thing. The Simpsons did it. Because The Simpsons, a long time ago, there was an episode where Bart got in trouble. I think it was during he was on a live Krusty the Clown show, and he just caused some chaos. And the words that came out of his mouth was, "I didn't do it," and everybody started laughing, and he became the "I didn't do it" boy. And like, it was so overused. And by the end of the episode, he was like, "I didn't do it," and everyone's like, and just they moved on. You see,
The Simpsons predict the future again.
Yeah, right.
And I found it to be very interesting. Also, kind of the similarity, and that can go for anybody with a trope shtick. I don't really think that it was like Full House. Remember when Full House did Stephanie Tanner? I forgot what her thing was.
It was Michelle Tanner was always, "You got it, dude," and then Stephanie Tanner was always "How rude." Yeah. I'm sure they're sick of it too.
Them. Yeah, but it didn't affect them like it did Steve Urkel, because that was the character for many years after Family Matter ended.
Yeah.
That people wanted him to play a rendition of. It was the same thing over and over again. And that is a lot of times when we find in actors who become successful in one role, that's all people see them as is one role. Yeah. Where they get stereotyped that way. Some accept that, like, say, Jason Statham. Others try to do something completely different with that, even though that they're presented constantly, "Oh, I'm the surviving broke mama of 16 people. Or I got to smoke crack in every movie." So I did love the fact that, again, this is all we see this person as. And people, as you stated before, they become very exhausted by him, where his popularity kind of goes completely downhill. They start talking about him on social media. He's not booked as he once was anymore. And people don't really, he once was, considered like a superpower, is more of his weakness. And he's constantly doing it all of the time. But he has no money at the end of the day, because, things are drying up. Let's do the heist too. Let's do another movie. And this is when things go completely wrong. He is supposed to be a doorman, a doorway for them to get out of the
vault.
Bank robbery scene of the vault. And he has a case of the bubble guts, probably because he's been doing this shtick for so many times that his system is just like, no more.
He was drinking just before too, wasn't he? Yeah, he
was drinking just before.
Mm-hmm.
He did also as well. The overextension of his power, and of course, Josh Gad steps through, and he does not come out.
I was thinking it was gonna be way worse. Honestly, I thought he was gonna get cut in half. I thought that's what was gonna happen. I thought they were gonna kill him off, but otherwise they just made him disappear. So hopefully he'll be back.
I can't understand that. I did not see him disappearing. I do kind of seem like definitely an injury, a harm. But the flat out kill Olaf was hilarious. Would have been hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
He could very much be dead, or he could be in the void.
He's stuck in a void. He's stuck in a void somewhere.
He's stuck in the void. That was just so sad. So then, of course, he is arrested by the Department of Damage Control. Because he's wild and reckless, and he did kill Josh Gad, or maybe not killed. But there's no more Frozen. Frozen 3 is not going to happen anymore. So thank you. And this is how we get the doorman clause, where no superhero can act in acting, period. I think it also includes theater. I mean, definitely movies and TV shows. And this is when Simon, as you stated before, you feel like he's hiding his powers. He is hiding his powers for a reason, because the second that they find out that he is a doorman, he has powers. He will not only be kicked off of the movie, but he could face heavy consequences with higher ups in the government.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you feel overall? Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up with this episode that stood as a standalone, but very was encompassing to the downside of Hollywood?
two things. They're small things, really. I wanted to mention. I appreciate the costume reference because they had a costume of his that's similar to what he had in the comics, or at least the mask, anyways. And then the other thing was, again, impressive. I just love. I was geeking out of him being an actor, acting as a doorman, and then he was acting in the heist movie, but really badly. So it's like an actor playing an actor acting badly. And that's just as impressive for me. Like, so now you're not even acting good. You have to act bad. You have to like act like you don't know how to act. So that was a lot of fun to see as well.
I completely agree when it came to that aspect. There's so many layers to acting that they have with the show. Again, it's the love letter to acting in general and actors.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I wish we could have gotten to see more of him in the CDC. What a CDC? Whatever the department facility.
Yeah.
DODC. See, I get dyslexic. Can't do all this. But I do
have a question for you with this episode. Do you think Doorman was selfish for even just taking Josh Gad's offer initially and then continue on with this new lifestyle because of what it brought him? Because he was already content. He even mentioned it to his boss. He was already happy. He was already content. He didn't want to do anything else. He was good. And then Josh Gad is like, hey, it starts at $200,000 a month, or yeah, $200,000 a month, I think is what he offered him, or sorry, a year. That's what I meant. $200,000 a year. So he was just like, immediately just shook his hand and just like, yes. And then it turned from him being kind of like a bodyguard in a sense into a full-blown actor, and it just kept on going downhill from there. And he kept on saying yes to it, like the fame and the fortune and the attention, and I guess more of it was more so the money. Do you think a content man could still be selfish?
I don't think it was about being selfish. I don't think anyone would turn down $200,000 initially. Like, I have morals. Okay, that can happen like 2% of the time. But if someone is presenting you $200,000 and at that moment you genuinely think you're just being a bodyguard, I think they would take it. Now, it does end up escalating. I think that is more of ego than anything else. Mm-hmm. Because who doesn't like, oh my God, people are following me. You saw how he came back to that same bar. Oh, Mr. Famous. Everybody knows who he is. You know, he's sitting up there in raves with Josh God singing Summer, which I love that remix, by the way. But I think when the ego is constantly being fed, even though that is not the initial goal, that is something that's very hard to turn off. And that leads to the downside. We've seen a lot with actors, the partying, the drugs, that high for that moment until, you know, they get overexposed. Remember the whole, and not just actors, singers as well. Remember the whole Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton situation of the 2000s. And I think that we as people don't see them as human anymore. We see them as that thing that they was named no famous for. Remember the whole thing? Remember with Britney for that moment remember when she shaved her head? Her whole thing with the umbrella. She's attacking paparazzi. Yeah. She's screaming, "Leave me alone." They won't. So she cuts her hair, thinking she'd be unrecognizable. She has a breakdown also. But it's because she doesn't want to be followed and all of that anymore. That didn't happen yet to Doorman because his ego was still being filled. Oh, I can get into this party.
But isn't
this
that
person
still
knows who I am?
That still in line with selfishness? Like, selfishness doesn't have to come hand in hand with money, a monetary item. But ego is still selfishness as well, right? You're feeding the ego
in a way, yeah.
You're blowing yourself up.
Yes, but at that moment, literally, what was the harm? Until he started, disappearing Josh Gad, there was no harm that he did to anyone. He just attended events. He's a ding dong. He held a Shakespearean skull and did commercials.
I see it differently because if you're happy with what you're doing, you're not complaining about your money, you're not complaining about your job. you're again, you're content with everything. Why escalate and complicate things further by taking such a big luxurious job by a big name like Josh Gad?
No one thinks of the negative, they think in the moment. And I think that's what a lot of Hollywood stuff. They just think in the moment, You know, sometimes it's one part to get to the other part, to get to the next part. So I didn't view it as ego. I just found it as him being in that moment and him finding success. And you know, if he was like, nah, I'm good, we wouldn't have a storyline. We wouldn't have a warning. There are a lot of people who are content, and then they step into Hollywood and they get a little slice of fame, and that doesn't go very well. So I thought it was a very authentic. And then you can make the argument, you know, selfishness is part of Hollywood, and so is ego, just in general. You want people to notice you, just in general. Now you don't want the negative side of it. You don't want to be stalked or harassed. But I'm kind of wondering, and it's not an excuse, sometimes it does go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, sometimes. But yeah, I thought, again, you know, I appreciated what they showed about how actors are just, you know, for profit. And then we can't use you anymore.
They just turn into a product.
Go away. They turn into a product. Now you could have made the argument could have just returned back to bartending and led a normal life.
True.
I'm pretty sure he would have been hired again.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to do a doorman stunt ever again, unless like someone was dying. So that's the kind of the bigger thing of it all. My computer just died. So what were your overall what were your overall thoughts on that episode?
I think this was probably my favorite episode also, because it leads from success to tragedy, all because of Hollywood. And now you learn a little bit more lore of why Hollywood doesn't allow superheroes, because they're a liability, and the insurance, like, it doesn't say that superheroes aren't allowed. It says that superheroes need to be carefully considered because the insurance skyrockets if they are allowed, because they are a liability. So it's not a sense of like racism or prejudice or however you want to put it for superpowered people. It's a sense of like, you're a financial liability because you're too dangerous to mess with. And I really like that little nuance with that, because it still comes down to just greed.
Yep, I completely agree with you on that aspect, but I also feel that there is a nefarious purpose at times where it's like, we're going to use this law and this clause for something. Now, if you go disappearing by the government because we discovered that you're a superhero, hey, because that initially is what ended up happening. They took him away. It wasn't like, you know, DeMar was banned. Granted, he kind of maybe semi-killed somebody, or he definitely disappeared them. But I you know, it's interesting in that aspect. I don't believe financial liability so much as we're going to make you disappear in that sense. So moving on to episode 5, this is when we finally get back to Wonder Man auditioning for Wonder Man. And this was a very interesting aspect where we had the director of the Wonder Man movie reboot, again, all for money, not because he really genuinely cared about stuff. This was a classic director who was doing Wonder Man because of money. And for those who don't know, this is the exact same actor who was thrown out of the window by Superman.
Hawk Girl. No, Hawk Girl.
Hawk Girl. I love it. So with this episode, he goes to his house, and this is one of the most interesting aspects, where a bunch of people who have made it through the audition process, they're workshopping the Wonder Man series.
Wait, no, I think you skipped an episode.
Did I skip an episode?
Because I thought episode 5 was when he got caught fighting those drug dealers for Trevor. And they're just chasing that boy. They're chasing that boy for the footage.
You're right. See, this is what happens when your computer just randomly like, okay. So this is when we all know that Simon doesn't want to be found. Trevor is working still with the Department of We Hate Superhero People. Trevor owes a lot of people a lot of money. Yeah. Obviously, he has a past. And so they're coming to collect. And Simon, he is his friend. He stands up for his friend and he takes them out. But there's a delivery guy, I believe he's a delivery guy, on a bicycle, recording everything. He's a guy. He's a hooded man.
He's a dude.
He's a dude being a dude, recording another dude being a dude who's beating up that dude. And this is when he starts freaking out because this was a crazy episode. He is pretty sure that footage is going to be leaked or released online and people are going to know who he really is, which of course is not something that anybody would want in this situation. This is when they track down the guy and we end up in a fantastical shootout. That's not really a shootout, but a showdown. Yeah. Where they are trying to get the footage.
What do they call it? Mexican standoff.
A Mexican standoff. This was one of the most funniest episodes. What were your thoughts on this entire thing?
I think it was unimportant, but it was still fun. It felt like, even though they're all 30 minutes long, it felt like a much quicker episode. It was almost inconsequential. Like, just none of it was pointless. Really? It was all more of just more struggles to throw onto Simon for him to like just deal with something and just to showcase more of the odd couple pairing of Trevor and Simon together. Because Simon was like, "Oh, I can trust this guy." And I'm sorry, Trevor's like, "Oh, I can trust this guy," and Simon's like, "I can't trust this guy." And then the roles switched when they got to the actual house where they weren't drug dealing, they were making chamoy candies. And then Trevor's like, "I knew I couldn't trust this guy," and then Simon's like, "Well, I told you so."
Oh, the fact that it wasn't, drugs. We already got drugs in the movie. This was so sweet. I loved this so much. But it goes to show kind of the relationship and the bond that Simon had because he did it so instinctual. It wasn't like, oh, if I fight, they might find out that I have powers.
Yeah.
It was something like, I have to protect my friend.
Yeah.
So I think he was fully invested in it at that moment. It was a full trust moment. And then Trevor saw that. And the whole Mexican standoff was funny. I know that you're saying it kind of distracted it from the moment, but I really feel that it served a purpose.
It was a little funny. Bit levity. It was just a fun moment. Yeah.
We've had worse, for me will always be the Kamala Khan episode where she's in LA and we're going to go find a diamond or whatever it is. The bank robbery.
You talking about Daredevil?
Yeah.
You said Kamala.
No,
Kamala Khan's father. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, the Kamala.
You said Kamala Khan. I was just like, I don't remember this episode of Miss Marvel.
I mishmashed Miss Marvel and Daredevil. Miss Daredevil. So yeah, but I think to me it wasn't so much of a throwaway because it still had meaning and purpose within it. So I greatly appreciated what they were doing here. And of course, this is when we get am I skipping ahead? The callback that both of them have been called back for the role of Wonder Man. So they both made it. And here's one of the things that was a highlight to me. Obviously, we know that Trevor is doing something nefarious. And this is when we later, discover that, everything was purposely and set up. But Wonder Man is an actual movie. I was wondering if they faked the Wonder Man movie to trap Simon, but it's a real movie. But I love the fact that they were never in competition with each other. Trevor was always there to help him, and Simon never viewed him as a threat.
It's true that they both never seemed like they were in competition, and the reason why is because I feel like Trevor was auditioning for Barnaby, but that was never actually established. It's weird because they both auditioned for Wonder Man, and yet Trevor was chosen to play Barnaby once they actually got casted. So I'm wondering, like, did they feel did they always feel like that was was going to happen anyway, is that Trevor was always going to just go for the role of Barnaby rather than go for Wonder Man, and he was just going to let Simon do his thing for Wonder Man. I guess Simon like wanted it more, so he just kind of just let him do it. It was weird that it just wasn't established.
For a moment, I'm just trying to, my computer actually did die.
Oh, shit.
A couple of things. I feel that that's a lot of times what happens in Hollywood. We heard of things where it's like, I auditioned to play the role of Aquaman, and instead I got the fish.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out for the best. So, but also you can make the argument that it was very convenient. But I genuinely feel that is kind of how Hollywood operates at times, where it is, you audition for this role, but you discover that you're better, so they discover for you that you're better suited for another role. So to me, that felt very authentic. You can also make the argument that was way too convenient.
It was just convenient because it was the both of them, together, and they were a duo for the past, 4 or 5 episodes. But you're right about that, because I remember the first thing I thought about when you mentioned that was, what's his name? Who played Lex Luthor recently in the new Superman movie?
Holt, Nicholas Holt.
Nicholas Holt. He auditioned for the role of Superman. And and James Gunn was like, I don't think you were a good fit for this, but I got something else for you. And he ended up being Lex Luthor, and I think it was a perfect fit.
Right. Like I said, it happens all the time. But one of the things that really put the nail for me, or made me kind of realize that it worked very well that way, and it was convenient, but it kind of wasn't convenient, was the fact that they had the scene work together. Remember when we'll get to that episode, because I jumped ahead. When they were bouncing off of each other and Simon fully let go, Trevor was able to respond.
Yes.
And they worked so well together in that scene where you realized they would work well on screen together. So that for me was like, I'm not upset about this at all. And it made perfect sense because he was kind of that mentor. And, inside, he was kind of deceiving. Remember, the whole thing of Barnaby is he portrays Wonder Man, which is what happens in the show.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, it was absolutely like a juxtaposition of the two of them.
This was so meta. It was a show within a show within the life of a show.
Yeah.
But yes, I absolutely loved that. And that is why I think that worked so well with each other. And then also, I don't think I really skipped. We were on 5. I got my notes back.
Well, we're on 5 with they got the casting call.
Okay, did we skip 4?
No.
The drug dealer was after. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So what was I saying? Them bouncing off of each other. Yeah, I skipped a couple parts in order to make that thing. But what was really interesting also was when they got the call back, everybody's really happy. Simon automatically starts panicking. Right? Because he's starting to overthink. Trevor zones in on that and teaches him the breathing exercises, which really does work, especially if you have anxiety in general.
Yes.
ADHD, them breathings, go right on YouTube. Learn how to hold your breath for 5 seconds, release for 15, repeat the steps over. It helps. But you really see them lock in together. And I think that if say Simon got it and Trevor didn't, Simon would be a mess. And Trevor was like, yay, Wonder Man, and that would be a great role in general for him. It was more of, a setup for Simon in a way. So I don't think his heart would have been in it fully as much as Simon did. So I think they would really need each other for that movie.
That's the thing, though. That's what's the word? You develop a dependency which is not healthy, and that's what it kind of seemed like with Simon, is that he was developing a dependency for Trevor. Trevor can't be with him in every role for his entire acting career. So it's like, I really loved this is back for episode 6 or 7, but I really love that moment where he's expecting to do his dialogue with Trevor in front of Kovacs. Was the director's name? Was it Kovacs? But Kovacs paired him with somebody different to see how they would interact together. So that threw off all his, like, everything out of his mind. And I thought that was a great moment, because that's exactly how an actor should be, have to be on their toes and kind of just be there at that moment, not plan. There was a moment, so I'll tell you my own personal experience. There's a moment where I'm auditing an acting class. I'm trying to find a good, like an acting coach. And I went to this one auditing class, and he wants us to do some improv. And he pairs me up with this random guy. Never met the guy. You know, I introduced myself. We talked for a little bit, and the whole idea is just like you come up with a name, you come up with a name, you come up with a scenario, and that's it. Like, just a scenario, and that's it. Do not think of details. Do not think of like where you're coming from. Don't think of what dialogue you guys are gonna say. But the guy next to me would not shut the hell up when it came to the details. He was like, "Oh, you're gonna be my ex son-in-law or brother-in-law. Yeah, it was an ex brother-in-law, and you had broken up with my sister, and I run into you in a coffee shop, and so and you're gonna say this," and I'm just like, dude, did you hear what he said? He just said, just think of the scenario, and everything else has to be ad-libbed. Everything else has to be improv. And he would not listen. So when we finally got on the stage to try to act out our scene, I was all over the place. I couldn't get into it at all because of the expectations this guy had, and it just threw everything off. And that just reminds me of exactly of what happened with Simon. Is he had everything planned out. He had all these notes on his script, and now everything's thrown off because his partner in this whole scene is now gone. So you had to throw it all away.
You just made me realize why I overanalyze. You was talking about the freedom of just being in the space and the scene. I was taught the Meisner technique, where we repeat and we question and we overthink everything.
Yes.
The method
you keep
acting.
on questioning, and then until it elicits a response, an emotion.
That is why I am so poopy pants when it comes to overthinking every aspect of a character, of a scene, of a breakdown. You have just given me a lifetime of information that I didn't know about myself. See, Wonder Man is therapeutic.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Oh my God. So yeah, this is absolutely amazing what you just said. So kind of going back to the chaos of it, I completely agree with you. But then here's my question. Is it a friendship that relies heavily on codependency?
Absolutely.
Does that make the friendship authentic?
Oh, it still can. You can still care.
It can.
It's no different than a relationship, an actual intimate relationship. There's codependency involved. You can still care for the person, but there are going to be nuances of expectations and how do you say what, like, you should be loving someone. You should be loving someone unconditionally. I don't think when it comes to dependency, it's unconditional. I think there comes conditions because you have to be able to rely on that person for like almost everything. And in this case, it's Simon and Trevor. And Simon expects Trevor to be there as his anchor and his guide.
Look at you being all deep and overanalyzed.
No, right? I love this show.
You love this show. I love the love that you have for this show. I love it too. It's like the more you talk about it, you're like, wow, there's so much nuance to this show. I completely agree with you when it comes to that. I was just afraid that the reason why he rescued him could have been codependency. But there is genuine friendship and love for each other there. That it does go hand in hand. As someone who does not understand relationships, look at you just enlightening me. So kind of going off of that. We had the whole spicy candy business thing. The footage is deleted, so yay victory for that. This is when the callback was postponed, but then we end up in everybody's house, which would be Kovacs' house for a possible callback, which is a mess. And this is when chaos basically ensues with this whole thing. And we're finally at the house. This would be episode 6. You know. So we finally get the callback with this. And this is when we get Trevor's backstory.
Yes.
Of him as the non-Mandalorian, not Mandalorian. Mandarin.
The Mandarin.
What is this man's name that he was pretending to be? I didn't call him the Mandalorian and the fruit.
Mandarin.
It's
no,
not
it's
Mandarin.
Yes, the fruit. Mandarin.
See, when I say Mandarin, I'm like, no, he's not a fruit. And then he wasn't a language.
It's Mandarin.
But, okay, it is Mandarin. They named him after a fruit and a language.
No,
so,
they named him after, well, it's a long story, but sure, okay.
It's a long story. Or we'll just go with the short version. Yes, so they're trying to get to Von Kovac's house, and this is what didn't you talk about, you know, when we talk about the whole scene of being thrown off. He completely botches the audition, Simon. He gets way too much in his head.
Pretty Woman, was it?
Pretty Woman.
He does a Pretty Woman scene.
But I was like really all into it, and I'm like, wait, he's a hooker? What? And
I thought it sounded familiar. And then Kovacs was like, that was wonderful.
Terrible.
He had a scene of Pretty Woman. And I was like, oh.
But he made such a good point within the scene, which he botched. Kovac is like, you're not being your real self.
Yes.
And I think that's what Simon throughout this entire series is struggling with. Yes. Being his real self. Trevor is the only one who is able to see him be his real self. And the people who do know him as his real self ridicule him and do not take him seriously. And his mama babies him. Let's be honest. He's being babied.
Yeah.
So it's either coddled or rejection. And I think that scene where Kovac says you're not being real was just authentic to who he was genuinely. And this allows him to actually be himself for the first time, I feel. Obviously, as you talked about codependency, he needs Trevor in order to do that. But within that moment, this is how he does get the role. This was also the best fake out scene that I genuinely gasped and started screaming when I was like, he killed this man. He punched him, and we get like a whole it's a Homelander punch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I was like, oh my
God. It kept
God.
going too. Like it was still dragging. I was just like, is this real? What is going on?
I thought it was real to the point where it was like, oh no. I was like afraid. I was like, he's going to have to be on the run. Trevor is going to see that he's a monster. The department of whatever is going to come rushing in. They did a really great job at that because it took us a moment to realize, hey, he was asleep that entire time. But yes, this was superb. What did you think about this entire scene where, you know, everyone, he thought he was going to go home. I thought he was going to go home and not get the part. And then, you know, everyone got kicked out the house. But come to find out, we have our Wonder Man and Barnaby.
Yeah. I need more Trevor backstory. I love the backstory he had and you know, how messed up he is. And the whole Mandarin audition was like almost an accident in a sense because he was so high or drunk or whatever he was. But I also loved that he tried different characters. And then whoever was directing him, he was just like, I need something scary. I need something serious. And he just switches to that voice and that stature. And I was like, oh, that was really cool. I want to know more about Trevor and his past, like his mom, how he started his drug addiction or his drinking and how he got into Hollywood. Maybe his first few gigs or something like that. Like, I want to know more about him after I saw this episode. I was also frustrated with Simon at this point because he started to become annoying because he wasn't following the advice that Trevor was giving him throughout the series so far, of just letting go, stop overanalyzing. You need to relax. He was still doing the same things, and he would not shut up about it, because he would be like, "Oh, what if we do this? What if we do that? How about let me change this? I just don't get this scene right here, and why he says it this way." And I was just like, "Dude, shut up! Like, Trevor has already told you what you need to do, and you're still not listening. Like, what does it take for you to just stop and listen, rather than like something to happen to you, and then you have to make your adjustments and then do it?" And that's exactly what happened, is that he failed, and then he had to make the adjustment and do it properly. And I was just at that point getting frustrated over it. Obviously, it worked out well for him in the end, but that moment I was really frustrated with them doing those monologues and dialogues. Aside from that, yeah, I just thought it was hilarious at the end. He got the part, and Barnaby is his name. What was it, Barnaby? And then
Barnaby.
And then Wonder Man, they got the part, and it's just a drive with like silence of just like complete shock of just like, I got the part. I can't believe I got the part. He's just there, just in shock. And I was like, I can look at his face, and he looks like he wants to just explode and cry, but he's just dead silent.
I like the fact that he was still struggling, because I don't think that it happens overnight where you just learn to stop overthinking.
True.
He's been overthinking his entire life.
So now all of a sudden, the series does only take place in a matter of days or weeks, maybe.
Yeah, so it feels like a month, maybe.
Yeah.
So to completely change your ways, it is very hard in general for anybody. And I thought that was a very realistic aspect about it. And I think he's going to always overanalyze, and he's always going to think. I don't think that completely goes away. You learn how to manage it and to adjust it, and talk yourself down from it. But It doesn't go away. It's kind of like an addiction in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I really did appreciate that. But there was that moment where it finally clicked, and this is when we go into the codependency conversation that you had. He needs him in order to click out, and so that was just my concern. If something was to ever happen to Trevor, which did, but then it didn't, will he be able to survive? Would it be like that one summer I spent with Trevor? He was a memory, and then you kind of go on with the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. But obviously he rescued him, so that's all mute. But I did like that. I thought it was a very genuine moment. There's a lot of times, and you talked about this yourself as an actor, you don't necessarily get the part right away. It doesn't click to you. Just because you may want to be a character, it's not clicking when you finally get there.
Yeah.
And that's happened many times when we see, for example, now we don't know yet because we haven't seen the final project. Jason Momoa as Lobo sounds great on paper, right? Yeah. We just saw a glimpse. Now, again, this is just a glimpse. We're like, oh, it's just makeup. Like, that's it. It's just Jason Momoa in makeup. So sometimes it doesn't click. Now he could actually pull out a performance where it's like, Lobo. And that happens. Many a times Heath Ledger is Joker. I don't see it. But he ended up being one of the best Jokers that ever existed.
Because his reputation was typecast of just being like teenage heartthrob movies, tween movies, a couple of dramas. Brokeback Mountain was probably his most iconic one at the time. I wouldn't really.
That was a good movie.
No, the movie was great. I wouldn't say that it was like iconic for Heath Ledger.
Well, no. 10 Things I Hate About You was like the role.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that one, A Knight's Tale. A Knight's Tale, Brokeback Mountain, like those are the ones that stand out to me. So I was one of those people when I heard that Heath Ledger got casted as the Joker. I was just like, this dude who does teenage movies, like, no, he's not going to be able to do this justice. And even the promotional material, when I heard his voice and some of the lines, I still casted a lot of doubt. But once they had released his look, and then I actually saw the movie, no one can top him as the Joker because of the choices that he made. And it just worked. I don't know what he did, but a part of it was a little bit of method acting, but it worked.
It was a big part of method acting. Rest in peace to him.
Yeah.
Oof. And then again, that goes with overextending yourself. Because remember, he was doing 2 movies at the same time. He was doing Dr. Parnassus.
He was stressed.
At the same, he was stressed. And what happens? He sometimes do the drugs.
He didn't finish Parnassus either.
No, was it Johnny Depp that took? It was like several actors that took over.
Several. Yeah.
Which worked because of the way how the movie is.
Yeah.
But still, rest in peace to him. And again, that's to show the dark side of Hollywood of overextending yourself. Once again, I think he won an Oscar. He won a posthumous Oscar.
Posthumous.
See, look, that's this ignorance. I'm ignorant, y'all. I can't read. I can't write.
This is our first time in the industry. It's okay, everybody.
I don't know how to talk to people. See, this is the code switching where I'm just me. Usually I'm like, posthumous. Thank you, sir.
Posthumous. This reminds me of the I don't know if you got to see the new Naked Gun remake. This is that moment where Neeson goes up to Busta Rhymes and he is like, "You were arrested for man's laughter." That must have been some joke. And then Busta Rhymes is like, "You mean manslaughter?"
There's nothing going up on here at all. See, this is what happens when you don't overthink. It's like posthumous.
Posthumous.
Yes. So I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, that is the downside sometimes of acting. But yeah, I know that they were both very happy when they drove back. They were in shock, and that was like a very real moment because it's like I did it. I actually made it through. And for him, it was shock probably for 2 reasons. Yes, Trevor is going to finally be the actor that he always wanted to be. But this whole scheme is still working. There's another reason like to be shocked. And then, of course, for him, it's like my entire life I wanted to play Wonder Man, and now I'm Wonder Man. Race switching. But he's Wonder Man. Yeah, I'm ready for some.
Which I'm surprised. I'm surprised they didn't touch on in the show at all.
Don't, because we already got it on Twitter.
Sure, in real life.
Do we need? I mean, it would have been something else. Wow.
They're already bringing to light a lot of political stuff that goes on in the world. Why not race swapping?
That would have been such a storyline. See, we need another. Dorman reminded me of One Shot. Remember One Shot back in the day what Marvel used to do?
Yeah.
We need another episode. It was like race swatching, and then you just see a bunch of people angry in their basements.
Angry keyboard warriors. Yeah.
How dare they? Yeah. He's the erasure of my culture. Yeah. So the episode ends, but before it does end, we do that Trevor is being picked up. He's picked up, and they threaten for him to testify against Simon. And of course, that happy bubble of friendship that they're in is, he's sad. Because now he has to gather even more information on Simon. And you kind of realize that this friendship was all like a scheme initially. But you see that Trevor is genuinely kind of regretting it. So, second to last episode we have is basically this is the flashback of, this is when we talk about the importance of Wonder Man. I think we talked about it earlier, of him playing this role. And what was really interesting is that, he was being reminded of different superpowers. That is his superpower initially before he got different superpowers, was the power of movies and how it can transport you into other places, which again, meta, I loved it. But this is when we realize that he's trying to like get ready for Wonder Man. They gave him a nice upgrade with the van, which is basically a trailer for it. And then he got the costume, and he's getting he's feeling himself a little bit. It's not doorman, but it's like, it's okay to feel yourself and to be happy about what you've accomplished. So I do like that. And everybody's getting all fitted, and you get to see the inner workings, at least with the costume department of that. And remember the glasses. It was very important for him to have glasses that Wonder Man had in the movie, the first one. Mm-hmm. So I like those little small details of, because we've seen it multiple times where it's like, remember the Superman movie? I was like, I got to wear, what was his name? Who's known for Superman? Christopher Reeve. I got to wear. Yeah, many times I got to wear Christopher Reeve's original costume. So we kind of see that where the glasses end up being from the original production, which is really nice and sweet how they did that as well.
Yeah.
Also, we got the crossover with Netflix. I was like, wait, did Disney buy Netflix? We're acknowledging Netflix?
Crossover with Netflix?
Okay, so remember they were all at dinner and the manager's like, yeah, we're going to do this and this and this and this.
Oh, yes.
Simon,
yes.
This is where we kind of see the parallel with Doorman.
Yes, I wanted to mention that. Yes.
Yes. So
they were already to just suck his soul dry with everything, because now he has this Wonder Man under his belt.
Upcoming. They didn't release anything. They're still filming.
Yeah.
So this wasn't like, in the future.
They were already ready to drain him dry.
So, yep. And you see, I loved how they again, the exploitation. Money, fast. Because again, remember, as actors, especially if you're successful, you pay everybody else.
Yeah.
And we learned this also when it came to the strike.
From the actor. Yeah. Because you got
the manager, the agent, the lawyer. I'm like, you need a lawyer, everything. It's a very expensive business.
A part of it, I understand why they do that. Like, I'm sure like 90% of it is greed. I completely agree with it. But I understand also the logistics of it is that when an actor is hot, you want to keep the momentum going. You don't want them to lose the momentum of the recognition. It's almost like what's going on now with Spanish dude, Mr. Fantastic, Pedro Pascal. Like he's been acting for 30 freaking years, probably more than that. Like I remember seeing him on an old episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's been acting for a long time, but now he was getting big after, I want to say, like when he was when he did I can't remember what the title of the movie is, but the one with Nicolas Cage, where he plays a fan of Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage plays himself. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. But I can't remember the name of the movie.
So like I think from then on, the momentum of Pedro Pascal was up and up and up and up and up, and he got better roles. He got the Last of Us. He got the Mandalorian, and just more and more and more. So it's like you have to keep that momentum going, because you don't know when it'll stop, and then you can't get booked anymore. So that's why now we're getting that Pedro Pascal fatigue a little bit. A lot of people are kind of pissed off about it, and it's understandably so.
I'm tired.
I'm tired too. I'm tired too.
See, that's how it drains you dry. I can't stand him in this. Please stop casting him. Yeah. But yeah, that is very interesting. And also, I knew Pedro from the Diego Luna. He was always paired with Diego Luna. And a lot of his. Remember, he did Spanish movies.
Okay.
He did a lot of Hispanicals in the movies. So I kind of remember that pairing. They started very independent as well. Unless I'm confusing him with I think that's him. Unless it's Gabriel. Okay, sorry, sidetrack. This is interesting. Trevor's now acting as his agent and is telling him to wait for everything. Great advice, but that is starting to fracture the relationship that he has with his agent. Yeah. Because he kind of feels that he now speaks for him, and he is upset about that. Which a lot of times that happens. How many times do we see momagers or even friends to like, hey, let's pause. And that agent wants to go because, again, money. Meanwhile, he's trying to preserve him as a person. Right. And make sure that he's being taken care of body, spirit, and mind, and not rushing to do everything all at once. Here's the big part. We have a big interview with a Hollywood journalist that wants to do a profile piece on Simon Williams and interview his entire family. And this is when Simon, rightfully so, starts freaking out, because he's like, the family's going to start telling.
Break. Even after getting cast as Wonder Man, still can't catch a break.
And he is very concerned that Eric, who he already feels hates him, is going to spill the beans and ruin his life because they had a big feud. What were your thoughts on the interview process itself? How these profile pieces work? So anytime that you read like these Hollywood Reporters or Vanity Fairs, it's always like, and we sat down for coffee. He drinks very slowly. It wasn't something expensive, but still he doesn't know his importance of the world. I wanted to write like that. I'm not that pretentious. What did you think about this whole episode here? That part.
it still also shows like she was very prestigious on for her articles and stuff. So, but it was more of an infamous reputation because she likes to almost kill careers in a sense. What was it Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Was that the character? Was that the actor they were talking about? Killing pigeons? Yeah.
Yeah.
She had wrote a piece which was practically a hit piece for him, and it kind of ruined his career a little bit, in the show. So yeah, Simon was rightfully worried, and I was worried for him because that's how it is nowadays, is that negativity and ruining someone's life or getting someone canceled is the thing that gets the best recognition, the more likes, the more views, the more readers, and it brings you money. So yeah, I would be worried too. So hearing from Trevor, he knows that Trevor's going to say nothing. He's not going to say anything. He's going to keep him safe. His mom is the same way, but he didn't expect his mom to get interviewed, but she did. And then it goes to his brother, and immediately he's like, oh, my brother hates me. My brother doesn't want me to excel in this. So yeah, he's going to rat me out completely, and he's going to ruin any of my chances. I, on the other hand, had faith. I honestly had the expectation that Eric was not going to rat him out, was not going to throw him under the bus. And the reason why is because for me, having my own brothers and sisters, we fought and disagreed about many, many things. But in the end, regardless, we still took care of each other. And we still always talked up about each other as much as possible, anyways, to a point. So I didn't think Eric was going to be capable of completely ruining his brother's life to the point where your dream is dead now. Like, you don't want to be that brother that killed your other brother's dream, or even just put him in danger if he mentions anything about his powers. So I just didn't see it happening at all whatsoever. And I was right. So it worked out.
I had the complete opposite response. I kind of, in a way, wanted something drastic to happen. And in order for that to be, it would, I think, rely solely on the brother. Now, the fact that they ended up being a very tight-knit family and didn't cross each other was a positive. But I kind of just expected a little bit more from that, because they teased the broken relationship that they had. And in a way, I kind of felt that Eric was jealous that he had that relationship, in terms of acting, in terms of being able to pursue your dreams and your passions.
Still worked out for him in the end. Everybody talked well about him. What's her name didn't really have any dirt on him. So I would assume that the piece worked out okay in Simon's favor. Didn't she talk to somebody though? Oh, no, she didn't talk to somebody. She had dinner with Simon and Trevor, and she kind of called out Trevor and his dirt and everything that went on with him. So I kind of felt bad for Trevor when she called him out for the whole Mandarin stuff and the drug abuse and his past, pretty much, and the fact that he's still technically an escapee. He never served his entire time in prison. So I can't imagine what she's going to write about if that got out. But obviously we already know that he got arrested, and we'll talk about the last episode. But yeah, I felt bad for Trevor.
Yes, this was a plot twist in a way, because all of the heat initially was on Simon. This, again, overthinking.
As the heat was on Simon. We knew Simon's story, we knew his secret, and he was very afraid of being caught, of being found out. All the attention wasn't on Trevor. And the fact that, and she's very well good researcher, but this is something that we're going to all know. Where was Simon this entire time to not know of the entire Mandalorian situation? Because he was a terrorist.
Mandarin.
Remember, even when he came in the audition, Mandarin. Mandarin. That remember, everyone thought, well, everyone, yeah, it was assumed when he came in with the audition, it was like, isn't he a terrorist? Where was Simon during this whole time that he didn't know? Was he so deeply involved in himself and his world?
No, I think that's what it was.
We just didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Because I thought he mentioned it. I thought he mentioned
again,
very briefly. He was just like, "Aren't you the Mandarin?" or something like that, and then Trevor kind of just gave him like a quick response excuse type of thing.
Right. That is very true. But to see this, and I think you saw a little bit of hurt in Simon's eyes because Simon is spilling his guts out all the time, and Trevor doesn't say anything for a reason. And so it feels like this one-sided relationship. He starts to question: is he his actual friend or not? And they, even though that the show in a way follows again pattern about you meet someone, we're best friends, then we have an argument and we break up and then we come back together at the end. I thought it's still executed it very well, so I like that about it. And I like how the tables were turned with the journalist situation. I obviously knew that their friendship was going to survive and be perfectly fine. We were at the second to last episode, so I knew it was going to all pull together and work out. Is this the episode with the explosion, or am I getting myself ahead? No, this is the episode with the explosion.
Number 7?
7.
Yes, right at the end. Right at the end of it.
Yeah.
Because Trevor at the very end, Trevor had revealed finally that he was working for the DODC, and Simon was pissed off.
That's right. He finally revealed, you finally have a friend, someone that you actually. He's met his mama. He met the man mama, and to discover that it was all a ruse. He ran into this warehouse area and just let out this huge scream, and it vibrated throughout the entire building and decimated the building. And this is when we learn of his true strength, or at least one part of his true strength, and that he's been holding back a lot of things for a very long time, which again is symbolic to him as a person. He is someone who's been held back and held himself back from expressing because he wants to hide and he's afraid of people knowing who he actually is, and to find this building and he just starts screaming, which is very cathartic just for regular people in general. It's a very normal reaction, but we just don't all destroy buildings when we scream. It was a very Black Belt situation. What were your thoughts?
I don't have too much further thoughts on that, honestly. No.
Okay. You're like, nah, I'm good. So, moving on. What Wonder Man final episode? We're gonna get this really quickly. The movie premieres, and this is when we see him with the nice suit. This is what we see in trailers. With the nice suit, he's a flashy actor now. We have the big world premiere event. Everybody's happy. Trevor's crying. He's crying. He's finally made it. They both made it in a way. And we get kind of a big reunion-ish with his family. And his brother is like, he finally said something positive. I was so disappointed with this relationship and how it ended. Just because I like drama and chaos, I don't understand togetherness. But he finally made it. I guess now he has some money, so it's like, I love you now. We really didn't really get a conversation. Did you like how that story ended?
I don't think it was about the money. I think it was more of just he's now an established actor and all his hard work paid off. So his brother's kind of just like, okay, I get it now. I see, I understand. I'm enjoying what you've been doing now.
He's enjoying the success, I feel. Not so much the process. I'm still wondering, is it now because, he can profit. His whole show is kind of about profiting off of people. But he can profit in a way, be like, you pay for this now. You do. the brother in terms of you pay for this,
yeah,
and you
yes,
can support us as a family.
I don't. Again, I don't think it was the money that was the issue. It was the effort of helping the family and contributing to the family. Like it's almost like, you know, many men back in the day, in order for you to be a man and for you to be a provider, in order for you to be a man, you had to be a provider. And I think that was like the way that Eric saw things, is that he was he was successful, he made good money, and he provided for his family and for his mother. And Simon couldn't do that, but now that he can, he's seen more as a mature man because he can do so. I don't think it really is necessarily the money. It's more of the effort and yes, the recognition and the fame and all that, and all that hard work he put into it.
But I'm an only child. Certain things just like go over my head. I don't understand sibling relationships. And it's like, I'm an only child of one. So it's literally a very small family.
Well,
So
I mean, I still think you can kind of put yourself in the shoes. Just imagine if you did have a sibling, right? And you bust your ass all day, nonstop. You're working 80 hours a week, you know, 5-6 days a week. You're making good money. You're giving away all your money to everybody else, but then your brother or sister is not doing crap with their lives. And you're the one having to take care of everything. So you would be frustrated over that. You'd be upset that you're putting in all this effort and all this work while your brother or sister is just coasting through life, taking handouts.
See, I kind of understand now. Because when my grandmother died, there was a very big situation of who's going to do what.
Yeah.
And a lot of angerment about that.
Yes.
See, I'm slowly understanding. See, you're teaching me about myself. You're like my Trevor at the moment. So kind of wrapping up into this, is there anything, we get the finale. What are your thoughts and your big takeaway moments from this entire scene?
Which scene are we talking about?
We're on 8.
No, I know we're on 8, but you said on a scene?
Yeah, and in general.
Oh, in general.
In general, being the finale. Trevor is taken away.
Yeah, in general for episode 8, I am sad for Trevor. I need more of Trevor now because he's like probably one of the most redeeming characters in all of MCU right now. And then it seems like just everything is good. It's almost like everything is perfect in every sense to wrap things up. So it kind of works out. It sometimes it's great to have a happy ending. And then we also know in the end, he goes and saves Trevor. We'll talk about that. But like it leaves things open for more while still giving you a satisfying, happy ending.
It made me so frustrated, this episode.
Really?
So it did. So as we discussed previously, Trevor is taken away. He self-sabotages himself for his friendship, which was a very beautiful thing, where he pretends, or he's an actor playing an actor who's acting, being the Mandarin. See, I didn't say Mandalorian, being the Mandarin again. This is when we had because the building collapsed and everybody's looking for the suspect. And there's a possibility that it could be Simon in there knocking at the door. And in order to literally save his life and also his dreams and the movie, oh my God, he's such a good friend. This is when Trevor is like, I got it. And he goes back into being the Mandarin and the terrorist that he is or was. And of course, the Department of Damage Control knows that he knows he's lying, but you gotta show face and you gotta, roll with it and arrest him for his crimes. And of course, that leaves the movie and everyone's staring like, what just happened? People are like not understanding everything. But he sacrificed everything so that Simon can live and have a life. And this is when I was on the floor crying. I was hysterical at this moment, which kind of made sense to why we got the ending that we got. So time has passed. Obviously, we don't know how long it's passed, But we meet a maturer, not in terms of age, but in mentality. Simon, who not only understands his powers, knows what he can do. He has confidence that Simon from the very beginning, when he's like, I'm small, don't let me be seen, is gone. We get Power Man, you know, walking into his own.
Power Man is
and
Luke
literally
Cage.
flying in. It's Luke Cage. Oh,
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
such a good series. But we finally get him walking into his own and determined to save his friend and break into the Department of Damage Control, which we see this whole kind of building, which I'm wondering if they use like the blueprints from Avengers. Remember when they was keeping people captive there?
Yeah.
Theo Ross, before they made him good in a terrible movie.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that when he arrested everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wondering. And also remember how they built the facility with Hulk so he can Hulk out and not cause any damage. But the point is, we have the facility. I wish we would have seen Damar in there, even just a little brief cameo.
Yeah.
That would have been really amazing. Save Damar. But he rescues Trevor, and they literally fly off into the sunset. Whereas it's like, I was frustrated because it's like, when did this happen? When did you decide to become confident? Was it the friendship that you had with Trevor, or was it the movie role? And when did you discover you could fly? Because remember, he's like, can you fly? Remember when they were being chased? In the previous episodes? And he's like, no, I can't do that. We're like super speed. Like,
well,
he
didn't know how to use his
nah.
powers. It was all based off emotion, but now he knows how to manipulate them properly. In the comics, he knows how to fly, so he just learned now.
I found that frustrating. I wanted some type of development where it's like, I can do this.
Oh no, but you see,
not necessarily
that's again those situations where like they hold your hand in the process of, you know, showing all this stuff, and I'm just like, no, I don't need you to hold my hand. He learned how to use his powers. Moving on. That's it.
But what about when it comes to confidence? Do you feel that this entire series was just about him building that confidence so that when we got to the end, it all made sense?
Yeah, definitely. It was a journey of him building his confidence, and not just his confidence, but like his technique and him being a better actor and being a better person, and him accepting himself and his powers. So he took the time to learn his powers and use them properly in order to save Trevor. So it was all a culmination of everything. And that's what you could assume. You don't have to have your hand held over that. You could assume your entire journey from the first episode to the 8th is him learning about himself and how to handle things and the stress of life. And now he's learned how to harness that better.
Okay. So as I completely agree with that. I was just frustrated in that moment because sometimes it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
I want more. My final question to you: do you feel that this worked as a binge watch, or it should have been a weekly release? Because we were all like, look what they did.
I again still don't understand any TV show, not just this one, but just any show releasing all at once. Like, why not just make it into, you know, a full like 6-hour movie, 5-hour, 4-hour movie, whatever it might be. Especially when it's 30 minutes long. If it's an hour long, sure, you can argue, okay, we're not going to watch a 10-hour movie. But they're 30-minute episodes, so I just feel like it should have just been like a feature-length film type of thing. And even if it's just released on Disney Plus, sure, that's another argument that we could have, because you know how Disney is so bad at marketing for Black actors. So I don't expect them to release this, you know, quote unquote random movie with a Black guy in major theaters, because no, they're not going to do that. So I'm happy with what we got. Amazing show. But I just feel like the whole 30-minute structure and then releasing it all at once is stupid.
I think it worked because to the average viewer, to the people who like don't understand
the attention span,
or just in general, the attention span.
Yeah.
People are not going to go like, oh, next week I got to tune into Wonder Man. This I felt was such a very isolated, slowed down show about art that for the masses, it would not have succeeded. So sometimes you have to make that call and be like, oh, this has to be a binge watch. This has to be weekly. Like when we had Daredevil every week, that worked for me. Because remember, I seen everything. I binged everything. And I was overwhelmed. Because I get the screeners. It was like, I'm overwhelmed. I saw this, when they gave me the screeners, I binged it all at once. It was like, this works as a complete total package. Back to back to back. If I had to wait a week for this, I'd have lost my mind. Spider-Man, the animated series, worked as a weekly. I think we got the first 3, and then it became like in chunks. And that worked as well. Now, Ironheart, that's a whole nother story. But for this show, I think you have to take it show by show. It worked as a complete binge. So I am just sorry for calling y'all racist for doing that. But sometimes you got to question the actions because we got terrible marketing. I saw like one poster in New York City, randomly in Chelsea.
And we didn't get any trailers until a few months before the show aired.
And remember, they announced Wonder Man so early in advance. I remember they had articles up like a year and a half in advance. And remember, this was supposed to come out, I think November. And they pushed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was very frustrating because I was at Comic-Con. It was like, I'm mad. But I thought it was a very beautiful show. It was very well acted. Ben Kingsley and Yahya, just the chemistry is crazy and wild, and they bounce off of each other superbly. And everyone really played their roles. So for me, I have to give it, a solid TV show of a rating.
Watch this one. Everybody needs to watch this one.
Everybody needs to watch it and have patience, as Captain America said. So are there any other final thoughts that you have with this series?
No, I only just hope that Disney keeps on with this trend of focusing more on character rather than spectacle. That I think that's been their mistake for a lot of what's been going on with MCU lately. So this was a good example of something quality content.
And we don't need a villain at all.
Yeah,
we just don't need every show needs to have a villain. This was not a villain show.
The villain was himself.
Even with Department of Damage Control. See, it was his insecurities and it was his so smart. You just smart for no reason. I truly appreciate that. And give us more shows like this. We do have coming up. We analyzed the trailer for Daredevil, and I am very excited for Vision Quest, which I do have a presentation that will release whenever Vision Quest, I believe, releases later this year. I think it's summer. I'm old. I can't remember dates, but it's coming out in 2026. And I have a whole Paul Bettany thing, and the trailer, it was good for me. So we will analyze that when that comes out because Danny's just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I still have yet.
Everyone, thank you for watching.
It hasn't even been leaks for this trailer, and I've been wanting to watch it.
I am going to tell you why, at least from my perspective, that someone recorded, not even recorded. You know how you take a picture of the poster? Like we have a big screen presentation. They took a picture of the screen. I never saw that person again. And they were sitting next to me.
It just black bagged him and dragged him off somewhere.
It wasn't like one person. It was a team.
Yeah.
And I watched him delete it on his phone, and they were like, no. I never saw him again.
That's funny.
And I was like, they are killing people. They put him in the doorman. The doorman has him.
The doorman has him. You put him in there with Josh Gad. With Jay Gad.
With Josh Gad. Oh, God. Hot mess. But yes, we will be back talking about more stuff in the MCU universe. Obviously, and of course more trailers and TV shows of whatever. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Danny, for dealing with me and my technical difficulties. You're a superhero among heroes. So have a great day, afternoon, evening, and everyone get some sleep.